So, Ambassador, set the stage for us, please, for the 10th Review Conference and any steps that you see that could strengthen this most important treaty.
Thank you, Ambassador. Great to see you. And I'm very pleased to be invited today. First of all, let me say that for many, many years, the Arms Control Association has been a pillar of civil society's efforts to achieve a safer and a secure world. So it is, as I said before, a pleasure to be invited to speak today. But also the Arms Control Association and its members have been vocal advocates for the NPT, including during this extended review cycle, and I thank you for that. Now, the COVID-19 pandemic, of course, has changed the world in drastic ways. And of course, it has impacted the 10th Review Conference, as we know. Therefore, the Review Conference has been postponed for a second time until August 2021. This decision, of course, was not taken lightly and was done so with two key factors in mind. First, the safety and well-being of delegates in light of the enduring health crisis. And second, the belief by state parties that the work of the Review Conference is so essential to international peace and security that all efforts should be made to hold it in person. Now, I really think that we all agree that the extended hiatus should be used as an opportunity to continue the dialogue and consultations on how best to achieve success and to maintain momentum and focus despite the lengthy delay. But also I believe that despite this delay, I firmly believe that the Review Conference can still achieve its goals of a strengthened non-proliferation and disarmament regime, no matter when or how the Review Conference is going to be held. Now, amid the pandemic-imposed postponement, it is often easy to forget that 2020 has marked not one, but two significant anniversaries for the NPT. The 50th anniversary of its entry into force and the 25th anniversary of its indefinite extension. These anniversaries should prompt us to reflect on the many accomplishments of the NPT and its ongoing role as a bastion of international peace and security, but also on the fact that this cannot be taken for granted. The treaty must be tended to and kept fit for purpose in a mercurial international context. I believe that the key to the NPT's success has always been about balancing its multiple elements, the three mutually reinforcing pillars of non-proliferation, nuclear disarmament, and peaceful uses. Advances in one of these areas beget advances in others, but the opposite also applies. So why is the Review Conference important to overcoming the challenges to the regime while maximizing the opportunities? Now, due to its membership and the paralysis that has affected other bodies, other disarmament bodies, the NPT review cycle has become the multilateral forum for nuclear disarmament and for dialogue on some of the most pressing international security issues. It brings together nuclear weapon states and non-nuclear weapon states from different regions to discuss a broad array of issues and to reinforce the myriad of tangible benefits derived from the treaty. Its forward-looking nature also allows it to consider the emerging issues that will be affecting implementation of the treaty in the future. As I've said ad nauseam now, my role as President-designate is not to dictate what a final outcome of the Review Conference should look like or contain. That's the prerogative of state parties. But my role as a President-designate is to listen to state parties and work with them to facilitate an outcome that is meaningful, fruitful, reflects all state parties' interests, and can be implemented by all. Thus, the goal should be to strengthen the treaty and, in turn, the global disarmament and non-proliferation regime, which in turn will also strengthen international peace and security. The best way to do so is to produce an outcome that is balanced across all those three pillars of the NPT. It should also build on the successful review conferences of the past, enhance implementation through practical recommendations, and address the emerging challenges and opportunities that the treaty faces now and is going to face in the future. But of course, the 10th Review Conference will have to overcome some important obstacles if it is to result in success. These are a mix of mutually reinforcing external and internal concerns and divisions, including the tense geostrategic environment and enduring differences between states, largely over the pace and scale of nuclear disarmament, but also how to strengthen the safeguard system and fulfill the mandate of the 1995 Middle East resolutions of the Review Conference. The first set of challenges, as I said before, includes divisions over the pace and scale of nuclear disarmament and the implementation of commitments given at previous review conferences, not least the commitment by nuclear weapon states to the total elimination of their nuclear arsenals. The frustrations and concerns over the pace of disarmament led many countries to negotiate the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, which, as you may know by now, it is also, and it's going to be, a point of contention among NPT parties at the review conference. But also the long overdue implementation of the 1995 NPT resolution to establish a Middle East zone free of nuclear weapons and all other weapons of mass destruction also remains fraught. After all, it was this issue that broke consensus at the 2015 review conference. Other ongoing challenges include how to address the issue of withdrawal from the NPT, as the case of the DPRK is a stark reminder of how a party can obtain nuclear know-how and then leave the treaty and its constraints. The second set of challenges, the external ones, are developments that continue to impact the regime. Chief amongst these are global security conditions defined by poor relations between nuclear weapon states and the absence of trust and confidence, coupled with the collapse of the nuclear arms control regime and the development of new nuclear weapon systems that are faster, stealthier, and more accurate. Together with the return to prominence of nuclear weapons in national security strategies and rhetoric about nuclear warfighting, nuclear risks are reaching dangerous levels not seen in decades. Under these circumstances, I see the review conference itself as an opportunity, one in which to hold the frank and expert-level discussions on challenges facing the regime that is needed in order for areas of convergence to be discovered. It is also an opportunity for the state parties to reaffirm their commitment to the treaty and its goals, including the pursuit of a world free of nuclear weapons. During my consultations with state parties, fortunately, I heard some of what I'm calling green shoots of convergence, areas where there may be fertile ground for practical steps in pursuit of the treaty's objectives. For example, under Pillar 1, I believe there are several areas in which we can make progress. These include commitments to reinforcing norms against use and testing of nuclear weapons, and to accelerate implementation of outstanding commitments and obligations, especially those given at previous review conferences. I see opportunities to achieve near-term gains, such as practical risk reductions measures, enhanced transparency and reporting, and to consider how to grapple with the nuclear and technology nexus. Regarding Pillar 2 of the treaty, the review conference is still the best forum in which to discuss challenges to the non-proliferation regime and its safeguards system. I think all state parties recognize the need to ensure that the expansion of nuclear power worldwide is accompanied by appropriate safeguards, and for a safeguard system that is effective and properly resourced, especially in light on the expanded roles that the IAEA is being asked to perform. I also believe the review conference can be the appropriate venue for discussions by experts on opportunities for how emerging technologies can be exploited. And finally, on Pillar 3, the peaceful uses, which has been often overlooked, but I believe that at the 10th review conference, it could be a key or a part for success. Why? Because more and more countries, especially least developed countries, are realizing the importance of nuclear science and technology for sustainable development. So linking nuclear science and technology to the achievements of the Sustainable Development Goals also effectively links the NPT to those goals, strengthening the nexus between security and development. I believe that the review conference can find practical ways to add value to the invaluable work being done by the IAEA in this field. Now, moving forward to 2021, it is my intention to continue with my consultations with the traditional NPT regional groups, including with capital-based officials, but also to listen to cross-regional groups and other stakeholders, including civil society, industry, and the youth, and also to have a stronger voice, by just gender diversifications. Because as I said at a briefing at the Security Council in February this year, the NPT should not be a closed club. It should be opened to the views and interests of many stakeholders, and therefore a more balanced and equitable participation of women in our discussions, the views of the younger generations, industry, and civil society will help, obviously, state parties to make progress on these issues. So as we continue to advance preparations and lay the ground for the 10th review conference, I remain hopeful that state parties will continue to work together and make the best use of this additional time until August 2021 to make progress on all aspects of the treaty so that we can reach our shared goal of a comprehensive and forward-looking outcome that can be accepted and implemented by all, and in doing so, strengthens both the treaty and our common security. And thank you.
Great. Thank you, Ambassador. Well, we don't have much time left, so let me throw one question at you, and that is the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, which is set to enter into force in January of next year. I love the phrase that you used about green shoots of convergence. Now, what would you say about the prospects of turning this issue, which appears to divide the nuclear weapon states and those states that are on the nuclear umbrella and those who have signed and ratified the treaty. Is there a way that you can use your role or that others can to try and turn this issue into more one of your green shoots of convergence that you spoke of?
Thank you, Laura. It's a very important question. Obviously, the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons is a new development in the sense that we have not had that issue in previous review conferences. The new treaty is entering into force, and obviously is going to be an issue that many delegations at the NPT review conference are going to try to discuss. We know that the positions are very confrontational for the time being, in the sense that those, say, parties to the NPT and to the new treaty, they would like to have a strong language in support of the new treaty at the review conference in August 2021, while those, say, parties to the NPT that have not signed nor ratified the new treaty don't want to have any reference. I believe that we have to keep a dialogue between those two groups, in the sense that I think there is misperceptions about the new treaty. I think, as you know, those who have not signed or ratified the new treaty sees the new treaty as a competition to the NPT, not only as a competition, but a step that will even erode the reference or the relevance of the NPT. I believe that it's up to those, say, parties to both treaties to explain, because I talked to many of those ones, and in their views, this is not a competition between both treaties. That should be, a complementary way. They should be working together. So I think that it's up to them. The onus is on those who have signed and ratified both treaties to explain exactly that this is not in an erosion to the NPT. And hopefully, the more engagement we have, the more dialogue we have between those two groups, the better chances we'll have at the review conference to have an outcome that takes into account this new reality, and is not, we are not creating a new unsurmountable obstacle. We have already too many at the review conference, as I mentioned before, just the Middle East nuclear weapon-free zone implementation of the 1995 resolutions, the lack of progress on nuclear disarmament, and many other issues. So we have already many headaches over there. So to add one more, I think it's not going to be positive. So I think that we have these hiatus, for the two groups to engage. But I say, I think the onus is on those parties that are party to both treaties to explain how it's going to be working together with NPT. And of course, as a President-designate, I will do my best to have an outcome that will appease, just both sides.
Great, thank you. Actually, most of the questions I've gotten all had to do with the TPNW, so thanks for that answer. We don't have much time left, so let me throw two questions that have popped up. One was from another NPT veteran, Ambassador Paul Meyer, who asks about what's called by some the institutional deficit of the review process. Do you see ways that you could, or the states parties could come up with ways to institutionalize the process in between review conferences? Another one from another old colleague, Ralph, asked about what you can do to enhance civility in the process.
Okay, just to the first questions about the review conference, you have to recall that there have been many initiatives in the past to strengthen the review cycle itself, and not only the review conference in particular, but the cycle all those years in between each review conference. There have been many proposals, very good ones, by Australia, by Canada, by many others. I believe that they're working on new documents on that. I welcome. I believe that we can use maybe the lessons we are learning in this, hiatus, or extended hiatus because of the pandemic, because we are, the Bureau and I and the Secretary-designate, we are being pushed to our limits in the sense of how to keep momentum. And therefore, we are coming up, with some ideas like webinars. Obviously, now there are virtual webinars, sub-regional seminars, in order to keep, just delegations and civil society engaged on those issues. I think that there are many, many good ideas on how to strengthen the review cycle. I'm not going to delve into any one in particular because they're all good ones. But I hope that when discussing Pillar 3 at the review conference, that this issue is going to be raised, and hopefully we can also achieve consensus on practical, concrete steps for the next review cycle to be implemented and start strengthening one step at a time. Regarding my good friend Starry Graf, questions. Well, civility, I would say that, for a diplomat like yourself, Laura, and myself, that we have been dealing with these issues and many other issues throughout our careers, almost 40 years dealing with these issues. We have seen just ups and downs in civility, and it's not only is the system of nuclear disarmament where civility sometimes can be lost. There are many other important issues in our negotiations, bilateral or multilateral, that sometimes civility is derailed. But I hope that civility and diplomacy will prevail at the end of the day at the review conference. And I think again, we should not shy away from frank discussions, from open and frank dialogues, in the sense that it's not the purpose of the review conference to have all the parties together for 4 weeks and agree on every single issue. This is going to be impossible. This is a utopia. There are going to be always going to be disagreement on many issues. I think we should welcome that, and we should not shy away from that. But again, as Starry Graf will say, that we can have those frank, open conversations and discussions and disagreements, but in a very just diplomatic manner. He put it with civility. I would say that in diplomatic terms. But I think that's the nature of this political animal. And but again, I would say that I hope and I'm sure that at the end of the day, civility and diplomacy will prevail. Thank you.
Good. Well, thank you. We're out of time. So could you all please go to your chat function and select your next breakout section. So again, thanks so much, Ambassador.
Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you much. And also thank you to the Arms Control Association for organizing this amazing conference. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.